research and development in Nagaraju Institute of Engineering and Technology. He pursued his MTech and doctorate in metal forming specialization from IIT Delhi. He has published 130 research papers in reputed national and international journals. He has worked in Indian Engineering Services, i.e. forming special national and international ES as Assistant Executive Engineer. He is awarded with Career Award for Young Teachers by AICTE and Young Scientist Award by DST for his research projects. Many government agencies like DST, AICTE, DAE has recognized his research and awarded funds to support his work in material science. Thank you, sir, for taking over the session.
So this one screen is visible because I am accessing from somewhere else. Because my main system, I am basically recording. So everybody is able to hear it, madam. Everybody is able to hear, or correct, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So just a minute. So everybody is able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
So because the reason I am doing this, because on main system I am recording and here I am basically presenting. So first of all, good afternoon to everyone who are joining for this FTP program. And I'm very much thankful to you for, such a short notice, basically for 2-3 days, because we have switched over from one institute to another institute and still all of you are joining. And my schedule is basically 5 minutes. I would like to speak some general things. Then up to close to 2:40, I would like to give a presentation. And from there onwards, I will like to take some questions. You can ask any question based on the present presentation or some whatever doubt you have related to this FDP. And I also would like to announce that, from July 1st week, for 1 week, we will have another FDP with NITTTR only, because Professor Rupender only approached me today. So, but that FDP will be on basically modeling, materials modeling. So it will be full certification course, 1 week course, and I think link will appear after 1 or 2 days, link will appear on NITTTR. First of all, I would like to apologize. Basically, for 2 days, we requested for registrations at NITTR, and it was a short time. But nothing was in our hand because it was some emergency. Those who are attending this FDP program, I wanted to give them, the certificate that actually, there is some weight in it. That's the reason I hooked up with NITTTR, and Professor Rupender is a close friend of mine, and entire organization responded in a very positive way. So the link will appear, and initially I was thinking this Telegram group, to dismantle Telegram group on tomorrow evening, but Professor Rupender wanted to conduct another FTP in materials modeling, and there will be international speakers there. I'm selecting speakers very, very carefully, not just to fill in the blanks. They should deliver certain things, and in fact, some of the speakers I'm personally communicating to them what they should speak. And all of us are our friend only. So FDP generally in India, what is happening, because I'm in the private organization since last 14 years. What exactly happens? The organizations and also participants, they are doing just to basically create some documentation for NBA, NAC, and all these things, and faculties are also for certificates only. But my objective is not only they should get certificate, some content should be delivered to them so that they can improve their teaching skills and all these things. So my motto, whether it's a FDP or the conference that we organize, ICMPC, my always focus is on quality publications, quality teaching, everywhere quality. So related to that, if you have any doubt, you are welcome at 2:40 to ask. So Professor Sushil Mishra also basically presented certain aspects of metal forming. A very beautiful presentation by him. And Dr. Nitin, actually he's my student, BITS Pilani faculty. So he also basically given some presentation on metal forming, and Sajun, third speaker, he is also my student only, and he will be speaking again on the formality. So I thought of basically, presenting. Initially, I thought of presenting something, whatever Professor Sushil Mishra presented. But after seeing his presentation, I changed my, presentation slightly. So I'm going to speak some aspect on finite element computation of warm and hot sheet metal forming. So I remember that in the presentation of Professor Sushil Mishra, one of the participants asked about the warm, hot, and all these things. So I'm going to speak about it. And if there is any question, let me know at 2:40. So it will be a short presentation. So, these are my students. Dr. Jahari, he is presently working as a faculty at the GRIT, where the institution where I work. And he was, in fact, my second student. And Dr. Nitin, he is presently BITS Hyderabad. And Hussaini also, he was a previously faculty in BITS Hyderabad. Presently, he is teaching somewhere else in Hyderabad. So this presentation, I have taken some of the work from their thesis. So then let us focus on what is a deep drawing. I'm basically assuming that, all of us are faculties, and I will be going through basics only. And if you want to go a little deep into it, you please write it to me. I'm freely accessible to my mail. And I love to help people, okay? Not basically just they have to give me something, but I'd love to help people so that our overall quality improves. Quality of publication, quality of teaching, anything, because I'm ready to help. Welcome to write me anything. So deep drawing. So here we can see that, there are dies. These are the dies. And sheet metal blank is kept over the die. And blank holding pressure, we are applying the blank holding pressure. Why we apply the blank holding pressure? Generally, this blank holding pressure is approximately 2% of the yield strength of the work material. Once again, I would like to confirm with Dr. Tanya, everybody is able to hear properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So why we apply this blank holding pressure? Because this is called flange region. This is called flange region. So when material is drawing, there will be compressive hoop stresses in the flange region. And if this pressure is not applied, there will be wrinkling in the drawn cup. So, but when the pressure is more, then what will happen? There will be fracture. There will be fracture in the drawn cup. So when the punch comes in, that sheet will come in the form of a cup. So if you see the technical term, this is called cup bottom. It is written there. This is the flange. And this particular thing is called cup wall. Okay, there are different regions in the deep drawn component. Now, if you see the cross section, the drawn cup, if you cut the drawn cup, so these are the stress patterns. This figure I have taken from Dieter, very beautiful book. All the teachers must study this book, Mechanical Metallurgy by G.E. Dieter, especially in the metal forming part, metallurgy part, very beautiful book. So then the flange region, see, there are compressive hoop stresses, if you can see carefully. Compressive hoop stresses and the radial tensile stresses, flange region. In the wall region, there is a uniaxial stretching. In the wall region, there is a uniaxial stretching. At the cup bottom, technically speaking, there are no stress pattern. But, very insignificant biaxial tension will be there. But this biaxial tension is very, very insignificant. And most of the loads are material is experiencing in this region, see, in this region. Okay, so this is called punch corner region. So because of excessive load, there will be knack in that region. Okay, so this is basically discretization and using LS-DANA, because we use LS-DANA. Once again, I may forget later on. We have a lot of dedicated facilities at GRIT, very state-of-the-art machines, especially metal forming. We have simulation software. We have a scanning electron microscope. So if you need any help, please let us know. So we have it. This LS-DANA. We have 2 cores. What is the meaning of that? We use preprocessor DANA form. Dynaform is tailor-made for sheet metal forming operation. But by giving boundary condition, especially, characterization, whatever characterization of material you have done, putting all the parameters into the preprocessor, then you are running the program. So when you are running the program, there is a solver that is basically doing calculation, on the background. So 2 cores means there are 2 lessons of LS-DYNA. There are 2 lessons of LS-DYNA. So that computation time will be approximately 1/4. When you are doing actual computation, then what happens basically, it will take days together. And in this presentation, I will tell you that, when you are artificially scaling up the deformation speed, the predicted value are not correct. I will show you here. So we should try to run the simulation in the as exact condition as possible. And for that, you require multiple cores. For that, you require multiple cores. See, these are some of the defects I was telling you. So these are wrinkles. Okay, no? Wrinkles. These wrinkles will appear because blank holding pressure is not sufficient. Now, there is a earring. Professor Mishra was also speaking about earring. The earring we cannot avoid because it is appeared due to the delta R value of anisotropy. The R0 minus twice R45 plus R90 divided by 2, delta R. And when there is a larger value of delta R, this ear height will be more. This ear height will be more when the delta R value is high. Once again, for this July edition of FDP on material modeling, I would like to pull basically either Professor Yoon or Professor Bernard, because they are expert in this thing, especially Yoon, because there is a Yoon model for this particular earring height and all the earring prediction. So I will try to request them to give one presentation on this material model in July. So but there are schemes that you can minimize this earring height. Otherwise, after deep drawing, what we have to do? We have to cut off the ears and and get the final product. And unnecessarily, we are adding another process in between. So this can be minimized. And then another very popular defect is fracture at the cup bottom. So this appears when either the draw ratio exceeds the limiting draw ratio, or when the blank holding pressure is high. Because of these two regions, fracture appears in the drawn component. Of course, there are other defects are also there. For example, stub rings, orange peel, and there are 6-7 other defects, but we are discussing only the main defects. So introduction, what is it? Basically, sheet metal forming is a popular process in automobile and aerospace industries. Whatever automobile product you see, somebody told me, those who are working in the automobile sector, that approximately 25 to 30% of the engine products are sheet metal formed products. So quite extensively used in not only automobile but nuclear industries, wherever there is a fuel bundle and all that, it's all sheet metal forming operation. So some of the popularly used materials are low carbon steel, generally, for example, car bodies. If it's a low end car, the material is interstitial free steel or DQ steel, interstitial free steel. This austenitic stainless steel is also used extensively. Okay, no? But if it is a high-end car, sometimes we use titanium to make car light as a body material. Sometimes in high-end cars. Okay, no? Titanium and magnesium. Our friend Professor Manoj Gupta also speak extensively. It was a very beautiful lecture by him. Aluminium. Generally, whenever it comes to aluminium, we use duralumin. But the problem with the aluminium is it has got very poor formability. It is very difficult to form material, aluminium, even the duralumin. But this titanium also, we are going to discuss. I'm going to discuss 2 case studies today. One is ASS, and another one is titanium. So there I'm going to discuss these things. So except low carbon steel and up to some extent austenitic stainless steel, these materials has got very poor formability. All these materials like titanium, magnesium, as Professor Gupta was telling that there is a material AZ31, so it has got some good formability, but nothing close to low carbon steel and ASS. ASS is known to have a very good formability. Then the problem is whenever you think of any new component, new design, you have to form it. You cannot go for multiple hit and trials. Especially we have got titanium. Already it is very poorly formable material. So we cannot go for multiple hit and trials. So we have to depend upon finite element computations. Okay, no? And what I have listed some of the advantages of finite element computation. I think all of us are teachers, so all of us knows these things very well. Then finite element simulations of worm forming involves highly nonlinear yielding and flow behavior. What is the problem? When you are forming the material at room temperature, number of parameters in evaluating it are quite limited. For example, when you are thinking of room temperature, what are the parameters that you have to give to any simulation? Yield strength, and then ultimate tensile strength, work hardening exponent and strength coefficient and K, and then Langford parameters. Langford parameters like R0, R45, R90. Actually, these are the, and then Nitin was also telling that, for biaxial parameters are also used for simulation for some special materials. But, these parameters are minimum. For example, either you follow Hill or Berlard. Berlard, there are 3 models, Berlard 2000, Kazaku Berlard. There are 3 models that people use nowadays. So these parameters we have to calculate. But if it is a worm forming, some additional parameters comes into picture. For example, conductivity of both the workpiece and for the tooling, and the parameters that are required at high temperature. Also, all these parameters has to be known. So certain discussions I will be doing related to that. So as I told you that there are 2 case studies I'm going to discuss. First is titanium grade 5. So titanium 6%, aluminum and 4% vanadium. This is also called grade 5 material. And Dr. Bhattacharya was telling, it was a very informative session, that this material is the most popular material in the titanium category. And one of the material his team himself developed, the beta 21 alloy. They are the one, they developed this material for our defense applications in India. And we are jointly working on one project with Dr. Amit Bhattacharya to test the formability of this beta 21 material. Because we should know that titanium grade 5, 6Al4V, it's a two-phase material, alpha and HCP, alpha beta. One is BCC and another is a HCP material. And we know that the HCP is generally they are brittle in nature, and BCC are strong. Okay, na? And as far as the formability is concerned, the best crystal structure we are looking for is FCC, because FCC will have the highest ductility. The reason is very simple, because it deals with the silk system. Okay, na? So what I was thinking while preparing this material for all of you, that if you see the slide, presentation of Professor Sushil Mishra, Nitin, Dr. Amit Bhattacharya and mine, you will get the overall picture on the formability, what is happening. So of course, these lectures also I'm putting on my YouTube. So after this program tomorrow evening, then you just again look at these basically lectures. So titanium is a very, very important material, and lot of defense applications, titanium, without titanium, it is impossible to do anything. So now, as I told you some time back, that to study the formability, not only experimentation, we need a simulation support also. And simulation will run properly only when the material properties are given to the system very properly. Okay, no? So just as a side point, I would like to tell you something very personal. Most of you know that we are organizers of this IECMPC conference, and next conference will be in IIT Indore, and Professor Khalsa and some people from NIT Bhopal, and we have like IIT Kharagpur, we have some friend circle, and they are the organizers basically. I see close to 1,000 papers every year for my conference, and approximately 60% papers we accept for presentation and publication. So what the theme I have seen, that most of the authors, those who are writing papers on modeling, finite element computation. So what these people are doing, they are not giving any material properties, that what are the properties they have given to the system, and just they are giving some colorful images, and then no discussion, just observation. So kindly don't do that. If you want to incorporate finite element computation, number one, the material deformation that you would like to study, you have to characterize it properly. All the material properties you have to calculate and give it to the system, number one. Number two, proper boundary conditions you have to give. Number three, you have to also give the parameter, how you have to discretize and all these things. And number four, you have to write the proper discussion. Most of our authors, they are giving only the observation. They are not giving the discussion. Why it happened? Please do that, because without that, paper quality doesn't come out properly, and it will not be accepted in any good journal. So mechanical properties we have to calculate. So generally, because our sample is a sheet metal, so we focus on ASTM standards, because it's a quite quite a popular ASTM E8, generally M. We do this thing. And how exactly we calculate the properties? We have so many systems, both at, because generally most of my work is with in the collaboration with BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus, with Dr. Nitin, Dr. Suresh, and Dr. Gupta. So in our group, we have a lot of machines. This is one of the oldest machine we have, where there is a video extension meter. But now most of our work, especially the characterization work, is on Zwick and BIS system. BIS system GRIT is having, and Zwick they have, actually BITS Pilani campus they have it. So there's a furnace, and a specimen we are loading inside the furnace, and through this rods we are trying to deform it. So presently we have a capacity to perform the tensile test at constant crosshead speed and also at constant strain rate, and we can go from 0.0001 per second to even 100 per second. This is the range in which we can operate our machine. So we are capable to perform tests at constant crosshead speed and at constant strain rate also. So all the mechanical properties has to be calculated, especially N is very, very important, especially if you want to study the forming behavior. And plays a very, very crucial role, because generally there's objective question, it appears in various competitive examination, that the formability of the material depends upon. It's quite a confusing question. Of course, formability depends upon many factors, but the most important factor is the work hardening exponent N, because it will suppress the formation of neck in the punch corner region. And because you are forming at elevated temperature, so strain rate sensitivity index M also plays a very, very important role. And if you see the complete formula, flow curve equation in a very basic form, it is sigma F is equals to K epsilon raised to power N, epsilon dot raised to power M. We are talking about this M, sensitivity index. Okay, now? So these things are very, very important. This is the BIS system we are talking about. This facility is there at GRIT. So this system is meant for not only testing the formability of the material, but also to carry out the tensile test. Okay, na? So there is a chiller here, and here there is a controller connected to computer. Okay, na? And inside the furnace, we are keeping the specimen. And you know, this facility can go up to 900 degrees centigrade. So, you know, certain things we should understand it. For research work, anything and everything cannot be used. For example, most of our private colleges, they have, you know, UTM, quite a cheap UTM, not 2-3 lakhs rupees also you will get that UTM machine. A result of that UTM cannot be considered as an input to any research paper. You know why? So machine should be quite accurate. There are 3 types of errors in machine. First is basically system error. What is system error? Because 2 products cannot match, it is not possible to duplicate any product. So there will be some variability. So the system error, we should not worry about it, because by calibration, the system error can be eliminated. And the system errors are also called systematic errors, they can be eliminated. But you know, there is another type of error called short period error. Short period error. This short period error is due to change in the environmental conditions of the machine. For example, suddenly there is a vibration in the machine for a brief period of time. Suddenly increase in the temperature or load cell. So these errors we cannot avoid. So the machine in which these short period errors are minimized, only such machines can be considered for any research work. So this BIS system is an Indian system. It's something Bangalore Instrument, something like that. It's an Indian system, but owned by ITW. Same, Instron people. It's owned by them, but you know, the owner here in Indian counterpart is basically Indian, and the company is basically Indian. Most of the workers are Indian, so they are quite accurate. They are competing almost with the Instron and the Swift. Okay, now DMRL also has got a very big facility. I think close to 1.2 crore, bigger facility. We have only the 5-ton capacity. I think DMRL people, actually, Dr. Raghu, actually, he's a you know, we respect him very much, because he also helped us a lot, you know, during our initial days of our research. So they have got, I think, 1.5 crore BIS system. I think they can go up to 50 ton, and temperature also they can go up to 1200 degrees centigrade. But here we can go only up to 900 degrees centigrade. Okay, now? Then we are discussing about the titanium. So at 400 degrees centigrade, these are the properties. R value, this is called R0, correct now? This is called R45, and this is called R90. We can see here that there is a lot of variability in the material. See, even the yield strength, 0 degree orientation to the rolling direction. There is almost a difference of 100 MPa in 45 degree direction. And again, back to the square one, 90 degree. So huge variability in the yield strength, ultimate tensile strength. We can see this by the Langford parameters R0, R45, and R90. But you know, in N value, there is not much significant variation. M value is also very small, because the temperature is only 400 degrees centigrade. As you know, Dr. Amit was also saying, Bhattacharya, that you know, below 600 degrees centigrade, no microstructural changes are expected in this material. Okay, now? So you know, like oxide formation and all these things, or alpha beta converting into beta, these changes are not expected below. Even phase changes are not possible below 745 or 800 degrees centigrade. I don't know the exact metallurgy of this one titanium. Only the Dr. Amit also knows notice it very well. And these are basically biaxial parameters for titanium at 400 degrees centigrade. Now, if you to characterize the material fully, we have taken so many temperatures: 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, because students, those who are working under us, initially what we do, basically we ask them to fit into some ANN or support vector regression just for initial hand up, so that they should know how the material properties varies with respect to temperature. So it's a basically very basic study we ask the student to perform, and for these studies we need data. For that only we carry out tests at different temperatures, and generally they publish this particular ANN type of thing in a very low impact factor journal. Our main study goes to some good journal having some good SCI, but initially we encourage our students to write on their own, and basic study whatever they are carrying out, they should publish at least some Scopus, because non-Scopus journal I think it's not worth it to publish it. So this is the thing. Now see, at strain rate 0.01 per second, see how the behavior of stress strain diagram. At 700 degrees centigrade, see, at room temperature, titanium grade 5 material is, doesn't have good ductility, maybe 10%. But here, see, at 700 degrees centigrade, it is close to 60%. And this is yield point. And the yield strength at room temperature is also quite high. Depends upon the exact composition, but it will vary from 800 to 1200 degrees centigrade. And one phenomena you can see from here, when there's an increase in temperature, see how the curve is flowing. Percentage elongation is increasing, yield strength and all these parameters are going down. It's a natural for every material. And from here, what we can see here, see, 0 degree centigrade, 0 degree rolling direction, 45, 90 degrees, there's a lot of variation. Of course, this region, there is not much variation. But this indicates the material is quite anisotropic here. Okay, na? So here, same thing, 700 degrees centigrade, if you superimpose 0, 45, 90, there is a variation. 800 degrees centigrade, there is a variation. So, if there is a almost overlap at 0, 45 and 90 degree orientation to the rolling direction, accordingly we will decide the material model in the simulation. So why we are performing this study? So that we have got an idea that whether I should basically take up anisotropic model or non-anisotropic model like Hills and etc., or anisotropic model like Burlap. So this study is very, very important. Initially, I planned some video, but there is no video here. I will try to explain something. See, whatever study you are performing, these studies are highly material specific. So titanium, we have seen that how the stress strain diagram follows. For titanium, if you see now, let a room temperature. And if the temperature increases further, let us say 300 degrees centigrade. So curve will shift like this. But this philosophy we cannot extend to every material. Okay, na? Each and every material has to be investigated thoroughly before doing any research on that. For example, austenitic stainless steel. This is another material I'm going to discuss today only. So if you see ASS, let us say same stress strain diagram. If you see, let us say this is the stress strain diagram at room temperature. Now you increase the temperature to 300 degrees centigrade. Let us say this is 300 degrees centigrade. We are discussing this for ASS. But now what happens, due to the presence of chromium, there is a phenomena called dynamic strain regime, or this phenomenon is also called Brugh-Little region. So what happens, in a certain temperature range, the dislocation density of the material increases suddenly. And this temperature range depends upon what is the exact composition in the alloy, and it varies from 300 to 650 degrees centigrade. So in this range. So what exactly happens, let us say at 450 degrees centigrade. If you see what happens inside the material, at a certain temperature, mobility of chromium becomes more than the mobility of dislocation. So the dislocation is moving very peacefully. Chromium comes from the back and bangs it. And this divides the dislocation into many parts. Suddenly there will be increase in the dislocation density. So what will happen? And this temperature curve will be even beyond the room temperature. Okay, but when we are going beyond 650, again the curve will go down. Curve will again go down. Let us say 900 curve if you want to see. This is the 900 curve. So the idea that was explaining here is, all the material looks similar. For example, you can take, sometimes researchers ask me, sir, can I take the data from the literature? Even though apparently it looks like the composition is same. But macroscopically, if you see, the composition will not be same. There will be some variation. So we should do the characterization separately. Okay, because slight change in the composition will affect the properties altogether. So now this is the experimental setup. We have a high temperature forming. So it was basically the first setup that we have developed at GRIT in the year 2008. But now most of our work we do on the BIS system. The problem with the BIS system is that loading and unloading, and it consumes a lot of time. So when we have to do preliminary studies up to 400 degrees centigrade, 400 degrees centigrade, we still use this machine. Okay, now see, these are induction coil to heat the die, because the problem is that when even the workpiece you are heating, if you are keeping on the cold die, again it is going to be thermal shock. So that should not happen. So workpiece we are keeping here, and the punch basically deforms the material, and the deep brown component will come out from this side. See, this is another induction furnace, and here we keep the work. We heat it and shift it over the die. Dies are already hot, and the way we are measuring the temperature is by using pyrometer. Nowadays, pyrometers are quite popular to check basically the temperature. Okay, na? And during this coronavirus time, everywhere they are using that thermal scanning. Thermal scanning means they are measuring the temperature. We have so many such temperature measuring system to measure the temperature of these workpieces in the die. So this is the setup that we are using. These are some of the down component. So if you see carefully, the ear height is quite high. It is primarily because the delta R value for this titanium is quite high. That titanium, there is another problem. Of course, at room temperature, the HCP structure is quite predominant. HCP structure is quite predominant. So at room temperature, the material almost is a brittle material. But up to 400 degrees centigrade, titanium exhibits very strong Boschinger effect. Boschinger effect. This Boschinger effect, some of you may know that. Let us briefly explain this here. Once again, stress strain diagram. This is the tension. Suppose you have loaded the specimen up to the work hardening region. When we unload it and load in the compression, yield point in compression will appear prematurely. There is a whole science behind it, dislocation theory, and I'm not going to get into it. So this phenomena is very strong in titanium below 400 degrees centigrade. So due to that, what happens? See, the fracture appears in this region. Of course, there will be a fracture at the punch corner radius. This is the initiation of fracture, and this is the final fracture. But due to the strong, Boschinger effect, the fracture also appears in the wall. The reason is that it's a very simple reason. The wall is experiencing flange is the one out coming in the form of wall. Now, initially it was flange, and then it is drawing into wall. The flange is having radial tension and compressive hook. So already that particular material is loaded in tension. So it will weaken compression. So when there is a compressive hook, the material fractures. So this type of fracture is unique only in case of titanium. It is because of its very, very strong Boschinger effect. Okay, now? So failure study also we have done it. At room temperature, we can say, of course, it shows a ductile fracture because there are dimples here and all that. But somewhat you can say it is brittle neck region and 400 degrees centigrade. See, characterization is somewhat ductile in that. It's basically spectrography. So I will be speaking only on titanium. ESS study I will not be doing because I wanted to finish it at certain time because I want to keep some time for the question answers. So maybe when we are meeting for the second FDP in July first week, that time I will speak in detail because I will have full 1.5 hours. That I will plan it in 1 or 2 days and let you know. So I will be speaking only on the titanium presently. So finite element models we have prepared in Dynaform, and we are using version 5.9.3. Presently, even the sixth version also came here because we are having AMC. So we get updates in our Dynaform. Presently, it's a 6.0 version, and we have 2 cores. Then only 1/4 we are discretizing so that to save the simulation time. This is very critical, coefficient of friction, because it is very difficult to measure the coefficient of friction, and without exact value of coefficient of friction, predictions will not be accurate. And it's a thermal card for Dynaform where we have to mention some of the parameters: heat transfer coefficient, radiation factor, thermal conductivity. These things. Now, there was one student of mine in 2010, because warm forming I'm working since from 2007 onwards. My doctorate topic was basically hydroforming. So 2010 to 12, there was one student. She calculated these parameters. How she calculated, I will tell you. So this is my heater, and the punch material is here, and over that, this is called insulation. And if you can see now, here there are tubings are coming out, correct? Na? Here I am measuring the temperature. So once the temperature is stabilized, here I have fixed it at, say, 400 degrees centigrade, and this portion is a room temperature. Once the temperature stabilizes, I can measure this temperature T1, T2, T3, T4, like that. By that, I can calculate all the thermal parameters. So this type of rod should be there both for the work and for the dies. So we have got these values for our dies, and if you want to calculate, you have to go by the same procedure. Because to run the simulation, almost correct values should be fed to the system. Otherwise, it is not going to predict anything. So thermal parameters calculated and fed to the system. And now next come to friction. In metal forming, whatever the type of metal forming you are looking for, whether it's an extrusion or drawing or stretching or deep drawing or bending, coefficient of friction is very, very important. So, there are 2-3 approaches people use worldwide. This particular thing is called inverse approach. Inverse approach. So there is Alton Talen. He's the person who developed this approach, some time back, even before my PhD, because in my PhD also I have used this approach. The way we do it, see, this is the experimental graph. Experimentally, we can calculate what is the load displacement. Now in the simulation, I am keeping all the parameters same and varying only the friction. only friction I'm varying. So 0.09, this graph overlaps almost with the experimental curve. So I will say at room temperature, mu is equals to 0.09. And for rest of the studies, I will use 0.09 coefficient of friction only. Okay, now, but there are some errors in this process. You know why? Because we are taking so many assumptions here. Now at elevated temperature, I think I have taken 200 degrees centigrade for this particular thing. Experimental, this one is experimental, see red, black one line. So this coefficient of friction line almost overlaps. It means 0.02, almost overlaps. So we will say 0.02 is the coefficient of friction. But remember, at high temperature, we have used Molykote. Molykote lubricant between the work and the die, because at high temperature, coefficient of friction is going to increase. So only way we can decrease it by using some proper lubricant into it. Okay, no? And in the beginning of the presentation, I was telling all of you that deformation speed plays a very, very important role in the simulation, and we should try to use as exact deformation speed as possible. See, unnecessary, we should not scale it up. See, load displacement graph for 5 millimeter per second and 5,000 millimeter per second. See, there is a huge difference. So generally what people do all over the world, they scale it up, let us say deformation speed by 1,000 times, and they try to give the simulation result. So of course, if you don't have a computation capacity, you can do it, but results are not going to be exact. So how to decrease the further computation time? Discretize 1/4 geometry, increase the number of solver cores, but still it will take for simple deep drawing, assuming that you are in the work, there are close to 5,000 elements, it will take close to 7 or 8 hours, subjected to 50 millimeter punch displacement, because that's the time we are getting here. So the conclusion here is that, we should not artificially scale up the deformation speed. So now this is a new facility we have developed in our laboratory, calculating the friction. So coefficient of friction is a property of two mating parts. So this is the sheet, and the pin, see pin, behind the sheet there is a pin, and pin is made up of die. Now there are two load cell here, and load cell is pulling the sheet over the pin. Okay, now? And we have some program here, because it took almost 1.5 years for us to develop this facility at our GRIT lab. And at high temperature also, this is the furnace. See, this is the induction heater setup for this furnace. Induction furnace, we are heating the sheet. So heating is so fast that within 1 second, you will get the temperature up to 1,000. This particular facility is in the working condition, but at present we can calculate coefficient of friction more than 700 degrees centigrade only, up to maybe 1200 degrees centigrade. See, less than 700 degrees centigrade, we don't have sensor, because our fabricator said due to lockdown, because the lockdown started in February in China. So we are not able to get our sensor. So once all this COVID situation subsides, we will be able to test less than 700 degrees centigrade. This is a new facility in our laboratory. So the FEM validation also we have done it. See the red line, there are fractures corresponding to that. And this fracture also we have predicted in simulation. And thickness, there is a validation of thickness experimentation, black line, and the purple line is Barlard 2000 model. Basically best fit our experimentation, not the Hill, because Hill is not a basically anisotropic model. Okay, Barlard 89 and 2000, so 2000 model is fitting basically for the titanium grade 5. And then just 5 minutes, I will be 5 minutes. I will give a lecture, okay? Just a minute. So there's a comparison between Hill, Balat 89 and Balat 2000. So as average relative error is also 2.85 and standard deviation is 0.02, very, very small. So for titanium grade 5, less than 400 degrees centigrade, we can use Balat 2000 model for prediction. So I think this is some of the simulated curves for Hill 48, Balat 89 and Balat 2000. So this fits basically best. So I will not be covering the case study on 316. So, I will stop my lecture here because Professor Rupinder will also be coming, and I want to keep some time for the question answers. So give me 2 minutes, Dr. Tanya, give me 2 minutes. I will switch off the system, come to another system. Okay, na?
Okay, sir.
You can write that. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. I request all the participants can raise their hands for the questions. Shashank, sir. Hello. Shashank, sir, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on my regular system now.
Participants can raise their hands if they would like to ask any question to the speaker. The first question will be taken from Mr. Sandeep Pandre. Mr. Sandeep Pandre.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, this is Sandeep, your student and Nitin sir student, sir, from BITS Pilani.
Oh, Sandeep, yeah, how are you?
Yes, sir. Fine, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, my question is, sir, what happens to strain hardening exponent value with respect to temperature, sir? Will it increase or decrease, sir? Because in some materials, it is increasing, in some materials, it is decreasing.
Yeah, once again, it depends upon the material. For example, when there is no unusual phenomena like dynamic strain regime,
Yes, sir.
then by increasing the temperature and the value is going to decrease. For example, titanium we can see, or low carbon steel we can see. But for example, ASS or normal stainless steel, there is a chromium. So in a certain temperature band, dislocation density suddenly increases. So N value will also increase because N value is related to the dislocation pileup at the grain boundary. Is that correct, na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's a material specific again.
Right. Sir,
Nickel also, I don't think there will be increase in the N value. What you are doing now, Sandeep?
Sir, just attending FDPs and.
Are you working somewhere?
No, sir. Now we are in quarantine, no, sir. So they have sent us to home.
Achha, okay, all right.
Right,
Okay,
sir.
next.
Sir, yesterday in Nitin sir's presentation, we have seen, sir, for Inconel 718 that slide number 12, the N value has keep on increasing with respect to temperature, sir. And at 700 degrees Celsius, the N value is more than 0.5, sir. Means will the can it be more than 0.5, sir, N value, or it is restricted between 0 and 0.5?
No, N value should be less than 1. It cannot exceed 1. The range in which it operates is between 0 to 1.
Yes, sir.
Like sometimes some unusual phenomena happens like DSR, dynamic strain regime, in which the N value increases in fact. But it is a highly, material specific.
Okay, sir.
In nickel, he is going to speak. You know him, na? Sajan. He's the third speaker today. He will be speaking on the nickel formability only.
Fine, sir. Sir, and my last question is, sir, from your paper, I have seen, sir, 2010 materials and design paper, which you have written in 2010. The same slides you have shown, sir, now. What happens to the coefficient of friction, sir, with respect to increase in temperature?
Coefficient of friction, let us say if the lubricant, we are using molecule at high temperature, let us say coefficient of friction is same.
Yes, sir.
I mean, no, lubricant is same, then mu is going to increase. But what we do, at higher is the coefficient of friction, then formability will not be possible. There will be fracture at the cup bottom. So what we do, we change the lubricant.
Yes,
for example, at room temperature, we have not used any lubricant. We may be using some plastics and all that. So coefficient of friction is high. But in the moment we increase the temperature, we are using molybdenum. Is it correct, na? So because of molybdenum, only coefficient of friction decreases. If we don't use molybdenum, coefficient of friction would be quite high because of sticking property. Correct, na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you don't change the lubricant, let us say use the same plastic,
Okay.
then let us say coefficient of friction at room temperature is 0.05.
Yes, sir.
At 300 degrees centigrade, it will be 0.1. It will be more.
Okay,
But
sir.
there in that materials and design paper, what investigation I did basically, I used molybdenum based molybdenum disulfide.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
this particular lubricant decreases the coefficient of friction drastically. Okay, na?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Abdul Wahab Hashmi.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Definitely.
Can I ask a question, sir?
Yeah, you can ask.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Sir, actually, I'm asking about the FEM simulation of this metal forming process. So, sir, in simulation technique, we have a recently MDS molecular dynamic simulation is very quietly popular. So so MDS simulation technique, how better for the metal forming? There is any scope for the MDS simulation for metal
I will
forming?
tell you one thing.
Yes, sir.
Whatever the simulation technique, whether you are going by LSDANA mode or Abacus mode, or you are writing your own code, like you know my friend Indraveer in IIT Roorkee, he writes
Yes,
his
sir.
own code in metal forming.
Yes, sir.
So whatever technique you are using, see, we have to focus on 2-3 things: how
Yes, sir.
accurately you are giving the material properties, and number
Yes, sir.
2, what is the material model you are using.
Yes, sir.
If these 2 things are in place, I think you don't have to worry about the result. Okay, na?
Okay.
It will be correct
Yes,
only.
sir.
But
Okay.
material selection of material model, and number 2, material properties has to be fed correctly.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
All
Sir,
right, next.
one more question, sir. In a hybrid metal forming process, sir, how the material model selection? How, sir, what are the challenges of in hybrid metal? Hello,
It's a
sir.
quite difficult hybrid one. Na? Suppose there's a honeycomb structure, or let
Yes,
us
sir.
say
Hybrid.
friction surfacing is there.
Yes, sir.
There has to be user-defined material model. We cannot
Okay.
take any default material model. It has to be user-defined material model.
Okay. So it is a challenging, sir.
It's very challenging actually.
Okay.
Although
Sir.
in India, some people try to give the simulation results, but I don't think these things are accurate actually. It has to be UDM, user-defined material model.
Okay. Also, which software can be the best suited for hybrid metal simulation for this
Abacus,
hybrid?
I think you try Abacus.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Which institute you are working in?
Sir, I'm in NIT Jaipur. I'm in NIT Jaipur.
NIT Jaipur. Actually, BITS
Yes, sir.
Pilani, one of my friend, Dr. Suresh.
Yes, sir.
He's good at it, especially Abacus and writing and all these things. So
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Suresh, you can give my reference and BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus.
Yes,
He will
sir.
help you.
Yes. Before 2 days ago, I attended the lecture of this.
No, he's a Nitin, Dr. Nitin.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay. He
Dr.
was a
Suresh.
Nitin, sir. Okay, Dr. Suresh.
Suresh. He basically
sir.
good in Abacus. That one. Okay, no?
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Pankaj Negi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead with your question.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Tell me, please. I'm hearing.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, it's my pleasure.